Good morning, Canada. Happy Thursday to you. Get your hot coffee, get your hot tea ready. Let's go. Another hot topic this morning, although it's not the most positive, but welcome to Bakes on Things, the first sip. Yesterday, we learned Imperial Oil will lay off about 20% of its workforce by 2027, nearly 1,000 jobs, most of them in Alberta. That is devastating news for workers, families, and communities. But the bigger story is why this is happening at all. And let's be very clear, this is not some sudden, unpredictable business decision by Imperial. This is the direct result of 10 years of Liberal policy failure, indecision, and destruction of Canada's energy sector. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, join the conversation down below. What's the federal government's response to all of this? Well, Energy Minister Tim Hodgson says he'll investigate what led to this decision. Investigate? Is he kidding us? You don't need a magnifying glass to see the cause. The layoffs are the direct end result of Bill C-69 there, Timbo. The so-called No More Pipelines bill your government created. Endless liberal rhetoric, too, about making Canada an energy superpower without ever actually building the infrastructure to execute on that. It's kind of not going to happen if you don't start the projects. 10 years of climate virtue signaling that pushed away capital investment, scared off partners, and left companies in limbo. Hodgson doesn't need to investigate a thing. He needs to admit Ottawa has strangled one of Canada's most important industries and left companies like Imperial Oil with no choice but to downsize. And then you've got the Calgary exit strategy. Because if you still doubt that the Bill C-69 is getting in the way, look at what Imperial is doing in Calgary. They aren't just laying off workers. They've announced that they are selling their multi-building Calgary office complex and leasing back only a fraction of the space. That's not just about saving money. That's a signal. That's a warning flare. Companies don't sell their headquarters when they're planning for growth in your province or country. They sell when they're preparing to shrink, consolidate, or even leave. Isn't that right, Mark and Brookfield? Calgary was once the beating heart of Canadian energy, a global hub where oil majors, financiers, and service companies set up shop. Imperial pulling out of its offices is like a landlord putting a for sale sign on the family home. It means they don't see a future here. They don't plan currently to come back. That's terrible. And Ottawa? Well, they just shrug. They'll do an investigation. They'll tweet out disappointment. They'll promise a working group. But they won't change the policies that drove Imperial to make this decision in the first place. And you might ask yourself, is Imperial just laying off in Canada? Surely they're doing this elsewhere. Nope. Let's ask the obvious question. Are they laying other people off in, say, Houston or Dallas or in the Permian Basin? The answer is no. ExxonMobil, who's Imperial's parent company, is actually expanding aggressively in the United States. In the Permian Basin of Texas and New Mexico, Exxon is investing billions to boost production by hundreds of thousands of barrels per day. In Guyana, Exxon has turned a country with zero oil production 10 years ago into one of the fastest growing oil producers on earth, with projects ramping up to more than 1 million barrels a day, within just the next few years. Even in Norway and Qatar, energy majors are expanding, with governments that actually welcome projects instead of suffocating them out and choking them out in paperwork and restrictions. In the U.S., Exxon has been buying competitors, expanding refining capacity, and doubling down on petrochemical plants. So liberals, and everybody else for that matter, ask yourself, why are jobs being slashed in just Calgary but not in Houston? Why are Imperial's buildings being sold in Alberta while Exxon is building new buildings in Texas? Well, the answer isn't global demand. Demand is just fine. It's strong. The answer isn't oil prices. They remain robust. The answer is terrible and destructive Canadian policy, and more specifically, liberal policy. And while all of this is happening, what do we hear from Ottawa? The same tired old talking points about Canada becoming an energy superpower. We had the chance to already be an energy superpower. In fact, we kind of used to be before the Liberals got into play. This phrase has been kicked around for over a decade. Justin Trudeau used it. Freeland used it. Mark Carney uses it every time he wants to sound visionary. Now Hodgson is using it too. But let's look at the scoreboard here on energy superpower baseball. Keystone XL, dead. Northern Gateway, gone, canceled. Energy East, abandoned. There's pieces of it that exist, just abandoned. Trans Mountain, delayed for years. Its costs exploding from under $7 billion to nearly $35 billion. And LNG, yeah, we pushed a ship off our shores earlier this year. That's great. But LNG projects, the U.S. has built multiple LNG export facilities in the same time it has taken Canada to inch one of those projects toward the West Coast. Meanwhile, the U.S. became the world's top LNG exporter in 2022. Guyana went from nothing to over 600,000 barrels per day. Norway, Qatar, even Australia are securing long-term export deals. But Canada? Well, we're still talking about becoming an energy superpower, talking about what a great energy superpower could be. But without pipelines east, west, and south, without LNG terminals, without stable regulatory frameworks, that phrase is nothing but empty marketing and campaign rhetoric. And it needs to stop. Calling Canada an energy superpower while Imperial is laying off workers and selling its Calgary offices is like calling yourself a marathon runner while you can't jog across the street because you're too fat. It's embarrassing, and it proves the rhetoric is all hollow. And there's so many consequences to this, especially the consequences to bad policy. Because the heart of the problem is this. Bill C-69, it passed in 2019, made it nearly impossible to get major energy projects approved. Companies spend years and billions of dollars navigating review processes only to face more lawsuits, more uncertainty, and eventually the cancellation of their projects. Investors have noticed billions in energy capital has fled this year to the United States, where projects actually get built and right away. You can't call yourself an energy superpower if you can't even approve the pipeline or get yourself the hell out of the way. You can't call yourself an energy superpower if LNG investors bypass Canada for the Gulf of Mexico. And you certainly can't call yourself an energy superpower when one of your largest companies is shrinking in Alberta while it grows the same time abroad. It's not cutting everywhere, it's cutting here. And there are consequences to our workers. Let's tally this up. Nearly 1,000 jobs lost. A Calgary office complex sold. Families facing layoffs, mortgages in jeopardy, towns bracing for unemployment, and Ottawa's response is probably should investigate just to see what happened. Thanks, Timbo. We know the answers to what happened here. The workers losing their jobs aren't abstract statistics. They're people in Calgary, Fort McMurray, Red Deer, and small towns across Alberta who built their lives around this energy sector that we used to have. They're the same people Ottawa demonizes when pushing climate policy, but whose tax dollars fund the programs the Liberals brag about every single day. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Exxon is hiring. In Guyana, they're hiring. In Qatar, they're expanding. Only in Canada do we see restructuring like this that looks more like retreat. I got to settle down here, so let's wrap this up. Imperial's layoffs are not a mystery. They are the predictable outcome of terrible liberal energy policy. Bill C-69, regulatory gridlock, a decade of empty energy superpower promises, projects canceled, pipelines abandoned, LNG terminals delayed, investment fleeing. So when Ottawa says it's disappointed, don't believe it. This isn't disappointment. This is by design. The federal government has spent 10 years kneecapping Canada's energy industry, and now workers are paying the absolute price. Imperial's layoffs won't be the last. They are simply the latest chapter in a decade-long story of liberal destruction. And until Canadians demand real action, building pipelines, welcoming investment, streamlining regulation. We'll keep hearing the same old bullshit energy superpower rhetoric while the jobs, the capital, and the future leaves Canada behind. Thanks so much for watching Bakes on Thing, the first sip. Bakes on Things. Look at how fired up I am. I can't even say the name of the show. Thanks for watching this morning. Go finish your coffee. Let's all just try to take a breath and finish our coffee or tea. And we'll be back at 6 p.m. with the last word. Thanks for being here this morning. Have yourselves a great Thursday, and we'll see you this evening.